There we go. So welcome everybody. Let's see, did this advance? There we go. My name is Jennifer Harville and I'm with the Tug Hill Commission in Watertown, New York. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for the Black River Adaptive Modeling Stakeholder Meeting, BRAM for short. The purpose of the meeting is outlined here. After introductions, I'll talk to you about the Black River Initiative. Nichelle Swisher from the Lewis County Soil and Water Conservation District will hit the highlights of the original 2010 plan. Emily Fell of DEC's Great Lakes Program and Jasmine James of Ramble will talk about phase 1 of this current BRAM project, what it entails, what is needed, and finally, my colleague Gabriel Yerden will share the results of the feedback you provided when you registered and walk us through an interactive exercise, talk about next steps of the phase 1 BRAM project. We encourage you to use the chat for questions and comments. We are a small group. I don't see why we couldn't share the microphone too. So here's the welcome and introduction slide. If we could all just say hello in this order, just to introduce ourselves, that'd be great.
Hello, everyone. I am Emily Fell. I am the Eastern Great Lakes Watershed Coordinator with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's Great Lakes Program in partnership with the Cornell Water Resources Institute, and I am the project manager for the BRAM Phase 1 project.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Harville. I'm the Associate Director of Community and Regional Projects at the Tug Hill Commission, and we are helping with stakeholder engagement for this BRAM project.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Yerden. I'm also with the Tug Hill Commission. I'm a project specialist here, and we're helping with the stakeholder engagement and outreach.
Hi, I'm Nichelle Swisher. Make sure I'm not on mute here. With the Lewis County Soil and Water Conservation District, I'm the district manager and former project manager of the Watershed Management Plan.
I think I'm up next because I don't see Karen and Carolyn. Just jump in, Carolyn and Karen, if I'm speaking on a turn here. Hi, folks. This is Tony Elinardo. I'm with Ramble, part of the consulting team supporting this effort, and I'm the project manager on the consultant team side.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine James. I'm a scientist with Ramble, and I'll be helping a lot with the data compilation and data screening for this phase of the project.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheila with CC Environment and Planning, principal ecologist and also part of the team with Ramble. We're helping with data compilation, data gap evaluation, and recommendations.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie Honaki. I'm senior ecologist at CC Environment and Planning, and I'm also part of the consultant team working on the data compilation.
Thanks so much, everyone. The Black River, as you know, is a destination for scenic viewing, fishing, kayaking, and rafting, all significant contributors to the local and regional economies of the Tug Hill and Adirondack regions. The river is a major tributary of Lake Ontario and serves as the drinking water supply for the city of Watertown and parts of Fort Drum, covers 5 counties. Again, and the headwaters are in the Adirondack. Several planning efforts over the last few years, 10 years, including the Black River Blueway Trail, the Black River Scenic Byway, the Black River Watershed Management Plan, they're all collectively referred to sometimes as the Black River Initiative. The first Black River Watershed Plan was completed in 2010, and Nichelle will be giving you an overview of that plan in just a few minutes. And Emily will also talk to you a little bit more about the 9E plan that was created as an addendum in 2016. What I'd like to tell you about right now are 3 separate but related efforts that were completed to better inform the 2010 Black River Watershed Management Plan. These were funded by a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. The first was a socioeconomic characterization that provided a more thorough understanding of the demographic and economic trends in the watershed, and that helped to better inform the plan. You see that 3 study areas were created to capture the somewhat unique economies within the Black River watershed using zip codes. So in general, it was found that the Black River watershed is characterized by low population densities, limited commercial development, high levels of environmental conservation, and a somewhat slow-growing population. Next was stakeholder outreach. The steering committee at the time went above and beyond what was required of stakeholder engagement because we recognized that the more communication, the better. When sharing ideas and information across some 60 communities and 5 counties in this large and diverse area, it helped to better inform decision-making throughout the planning process. We held a number of focus group sessions throughout the 2010 plan. And interestingly enough, looking back, these are the highlights of the 2020 exercise, and you can read that here on the right-hand side of the slide. If you were to move away from the region and return in 2020, what would you like to see the same or different within the Black River Watershed Study Area? So we asked this in every focus group, and the executive summary of those results is keep our beautiful character, keep the resources clean, let us grow responsibly and sustainably. So interesting there. And finally, a groundwater assessment in 2008 provided a summary of identified aquifers, utilization and evaluation of utilization of groundwater resources, and an evaluation of future expansion and protection in the watershed. So these are all available on our website, and I'll share the link to those in just a second. And with that, I will turn it over to Michelle.
And I will unmute myself. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jen, for introducing me again. The main discussion that I'm going to have is about the actual original watershed management plan that was funded through the New York State Department of State. And like Jen talked about, there were some other plans going on at the same time. And I'll apologize ahead of time if I'm clearing my throat. I have a cold. So Jen, if you want to go ahead. Okay, I'll start off with the steering committee. This effort started long before I was actually involved in where I came in 2006. So the steering committee, I know the Tug Hill Commission did the grant writing. The DEC actually participated as a technical assistance. The town of Gregg, because of the New York State Department of State's funding, was only municipalities were eligible for it. The town of Gregg did actually agree to be the applicant, and then the Soil and Water actually was the project manager for the grant through the town of Gregg. So the town of Gregg didn't actually have the administrative other than the approvals that they needed and to be the sponsor. Okay, John. It was actually written in 2 different phases. So the first year, I think my 3rd day on the job, I was invited to the Glenfield boat launch to be there when the town of Gregg accepted the big check, we'll say. So that was my first, I guess, plunge into it. So the phase 1 was $80,000 and phase 2 was $80,000. Again, it all came through the Department of State Division of Coastal Resources under Title 11 Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. So in phase 1, we actually had gone through a contractual or a request for proposals, and we'd gone through the first phase that we thought where we were going to pick a contractor. And then we got the second phase. So shortly thereafter, we had to kind of redo that request for proposals and then interview again. And then that second interview, Bergman and Associates was chosen. They changed the name Bergman to Architects, Engineering, and Planners, and they did subcontract with the Academy of Natural Sciences out of Pennsylvania, Drexel University. Okay, so this is just kind of the timeline. This is after, we'll say, the grant writing. So in 2008, in April, it was the project startup. We started having community visioning workshops. Those workshops I think getting the community comment, one of those meetings didn't hurt because it was at the Tug Hill Vineyards, a little wine and cheese to get people talking about the resource. We did have some focus groups, and then periodically in the next year or so, met with the steering committee to come up with the draft recommendations by November of 2009. So in 2010, we rolled out the completed Black River Watershed Management Plan. It had different actual recommendations based on sub-watershed, and then general recommendations. The threats and impairments that were identified in the watershed plan are listed below. You know, your typical erosion and stream sedimentation, stormwater and flooding, nutrients, eutrophication, hydrologic change and stream channel modification, forest fires, acidification, pesticides. You know, I don't need to read it. I know you can read the rest. So these are the typical issues that were identified by the watershed plan. Now I'll say typical. I don't think acidification is probably so typical of other places like it is in the Adirondacks because of its sensitivity, but okay, we can move on. So from those recommendations, it has been a collaborative effort to work on addressing those issues. And so I do have a number of slides that have the different categories that were arrived at in the recommendations, and then kind of the projects that we've done since probably 2010. Now I say we, there wasn't Lewis County Soil and Water only, it was all the soil and waters, Herkimer, Oneida, Jefferson, Lewis, and Hamilton. I'm like, who am I forgetting? Hamilton. So I'll start off with, it was a group effort for the Black River Watershed Conference. We have done 13 years of the Watershed Conference, and we're planning on the next Watershed Conference I'm excited about. Hopefully it'll be right on the river. We'll see. It will be June 14th. So mark that on your calendar. The annual Black River Trash Bash is something that's coordinated through the Tug Hill Commission. And I say it might be a little bit like herding cats. I'm not sure, Jen. Yes, but that is part of a shoreline cleanup that we do in the area. And then water quality coordinating committees, we actively meet. I know Lewis County meets approximately 6 out of the 12 months. And then, so this is all under the category of partnerships, collaborations, and education. So I think I saw Katie on here, and I'm not sure, Katie, if you would want to talk a little bit about the Hamilton County Lake Monitoring program, or they actually have a report that's out. Do I see Katie in there? Katie Wickovitz, there she is.
I'm zooming in from home and using my cell phone, so the internet. So I apologize for having my video on. We have, oh gee, and I should know this off the top of my head, but I believe like 25 years worth of lake monitoring data throughout Hamilton County, and we haven't had a chance to put that full report together yet with the newest data, but that will be available for us to share and make use of it for this group. So in the future, I'll have more information on that.
All right. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Some of the other education things that at Lewis County Soil and Water, we have a training, or I say a training, we kind of have a field day, water conservation day for third grade elementary students here. We show them the groundwater model, the Enviroscape, which shows the different kinds of non-point source pollution, and then as well as the EM river model that shows erosion, use of culverts, how stream banks erode, those kind of things. And we have erosion control, on the job training for highway, and provide permit assistance and right sizing culverts for highways. Getting into the infrastructure, there's a lot of green infrastructure. We can't take credit for it, but the Department of Social Services did put pervious pavement and little bioswales and rain gardens on where we were formerly located at the Soil and Water. And then we helped the Lewis County Ag Society put in green infrastructure on the fairgrounds. A lot of between the Trout Unlimited and ourselves, there's 2 watersheds that had culvert assessments, the National Aquatic, the National Atlantic Aquatic Connectivity Collaborative, looking to improve fish passage. Trout Unlimited has actually been successful about getting funding for 2 of our townships here. And we're hopefully that we'll be able to get some more funding through WQIP, so the town of Croghan and town of Bremen can change out those culverts and open up quite a few miles of trout streams. And Katie, would you be able to talk a little bit about the Arrowhead Park green infrastructure?
Yes, geez, and of course, I'm not the one who was around when it was installed, but there is it's like a type of pervious pavement installed around it's like the restroom area. So it's the municipality wanted to reduce the runoff from the parking lot area by the municipal building to keep it from running out into the lake there by Arrowhead Park. And it was a really great project. It was almost like a pilot project. And since that has been installed, the town of Inlet really wants to do more of that stuff. And they're interested in installing some more, some more pervious pavement things, but more structurally sound for like trucks and stuff to run on, even in the rest of their parking area. So it was a good project.
Thank you, Katie. And do we have George on? Okay, we do have George on. Okay, would you like to speak to the Stormwater Coalition and the other Jefferson County projects?
Yeah, sure. So the Stormwater Coalition there's 9 municipalities and they're all located along the Black River, starting in Carthage and heading west. Every municipality along there is in an MS4. So we get quite a bit of funding through the Black River Watershed for them. The Village of Black River Green Infrastructure, the picture is actually on the left there. It's a little rain garden that captures their parking lot and their rooftop runoff and treats it. And the Black River's 150 feet from that. So all that water is treated before it enters the Black River. What else do we got? I think it's the next slide that it'll also show a manure pit that was funded because of the Black River Watershed.
Yeah, we can.
Yep, right there on the bottom right. That was helped funded because that is located within the Black River Watershed as well.
All right, thank you, George. So I'll try to speed things along so we're not too far behind. We've participated with the Beaver River Septic System Replacement Program. That's the statewide septic system replacement. We're assisting the planning department. And then there's also funds that have been available for the wastewater treatment improvements, but I'm not sure on those specifics that have actually happened in the watershed. Like George had mentioned, ag practices, the ag environmental management is a planning process that soil and water conservation districts in New York State go through to protect water quality, prioritize different resources and try to get funding for farms to remain economically viable and environmentally, within regulations and sustainable. Added to it was a New York State grown and certified. For those who sell products, actually, they're homegrown products in New York State. They do have to go at least through the planning process through New York State, through the AIM process to get New York State grown and certified or certification, basically. So a couple of the other areas are floodplain management and forestry practices. The floodplain management, I think in the recent storms that we've had, we've become very familiar with FEMA, working with FEMA and finding out the different requirements for FEMA, but also the fact that there may be, there was maybe a lapse in emphasis on floodplain managers and what their role is. Each township should have a floodplain manager. And so that's something that we've worked with the county. Any code enforcement that the county does for other townships is actually doing floodplain management, being more hands-on, I guess, on floodplain management and tracking some of the damages that have occurred, costs of damages, those kind of things. And then considering the placement of actually structures outside of the floodplain. Working with the emergency management and FEMA on the hazard mitigation plan, and working with the municipalities on becoming climate resilient. In terms of the forestry practices, we have Jefferson County.
I can't speak much on the forestry stuff since Pat's not here, but that tree planting picture it's kind of a small scale riparian forest buffer, if you will, that is located within one of the MS4 communities actually that I mentioned. That little tributary there drains directly to the Black River. So all that water that drains right there off all that impervious area is treated before it enters the Black River.
All right, thank you, George. And I'll just briefly mention the invasive species projects. We've had some manual digging that our technicians here in Lewis County did in the Beaver River Watershed for purple loose stripe control, not realizing the seed bank that we had. They did a lot of work to control that. And then through NRCS and the assistance of DEC, we actually put some weevil that actually controls purple loose stripe. Those were introduced into the Casterland boat launch to see, how well they would do in controlling the purple loose stripe. We've also had 2 of our technicians actually went through the whole pesticide certification process. So we could do a demonstration project with the county highway on Japanese knotweed. They did knotweed injection. That's an ongoing project. It was along the bank of the Black River on the Pine Grove Road, and it was the Japanese knotweed growing into the guardrail and pavement, and we're just trying to find out the best ways to get rid of that. And then let's see, doesn't have it, the picture cut it off. So we do have some Hamilton and Herkimer County Japanese knotweed control, and maybe if Katie has a moment, she could speak to that quickly.
Yeah, so similar to what Nichelle said, for both Hamilton and Herkimer County along the Black River, there are certified pesticide applicators in both of those 2 counties, myself included. And so we're, trying to focus that invasive species treatment there. And also we're going to be doing some purple loose stripe treatment, hopefully the beetle rearing this year as well.
Okay, so then we're working on different townships and groups of townships are bringing in comprehensive plan updates for planning and land use. We actually have also tried to work with, we were working with the IDA on coming up with a pilot and protecting, I guess, the more highly productive soils, while at the same time protecting our riparian areas. So, okay, Jen. And finally, this is my last slide. For recreation, those Lewis County, we do a lot of ATV trails. And with every ATV trail that we add, the Soil and Water actually does the seeker process. We go out to the trails, we take inventory, we characterize, we evaluate, what are the resources. The county has sent us 2 wetland delineation schools, so we can now delineate wetlands according to the protocols of the Army Corps. And so we participate in that. And then we also have our stream gauge or emergency flood monitoring system that kind of doubles also as some water quality monitoring, because we do some, we not only monitor water levels, but we monitor conductivity, temperature, and total suspended solids. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Emily.
Thank you, Nichelle, and thank you to George and Katie for providing some more background on those different projects. I plugged in a link in the chat with information on the projects, which can be accessed from past newsletters and from the 2010 through 2020 Black River Initiative project report that we had all worked on together to evaluate our progress implementing recommendations of both the Black River Watershed Management Plan as well as the Black River 9-element watershed plan. And within that progress report, we had identified 72 actions, including projects and initiatives totaling $35,812,470 that have been completed or were underway at the time of the progress report. And here is a map of all of those projects that were implemented, that were on the ground. And the red shows remediation projects, whereas the orange show the agricultural best management practices. You can see lots of them were right in the valley and within Lewis County, which is, one of the major agricultural areas of the watershed. And then brown projects were wastewater treatment upgrades, and green projects showed restoration and green infrastructure, and the blackish, darkish blue color is the recreation access and community renewal types of projects that were implemented. And all of this great work was completed in support of with many partners, including the soil and water districts, municipalities that partnered on these efforts, planning committee, county planning, and many others that all supported these different types of projects within the watershed. The 2016 Black River 9-element plan was approved by the Department of Environmental Conservation and used the previously modeled, the previous modeling from the Black River Watershed Management Plan that was done by Bergman and Associates, which used the Ag VWLF watershed model. And this modeling was developed at this hydraulic unit code 11 scale, which basically is a boundary that is established by the U.S. Geological Service to delineate, an area within a watershed where a drainage is, where you would see, all of the water off the landscape draining to one particular area, like a brook or a tributary. So that was the scale that was used, and based on that, there were priority subwatersheds that were identified for reducing phosphorus, nitrogen, and sediment loading to the watershed, and that was Mill Creek, Lower Black River, and the Lower Middle Black River. The Huck 11 scale watershed boundaries were more, I guess, within a few years, were classified as legacy. So these boundaries are no longer readily available to be accessed by partners and management staff that are looking to implement projects within those priority subwatersheds. This makes tracking our progress towards implementation difficult, especially with agricultural best management practices where specific locations are classified, but this information can be shared at the watershed Huck 12 scale. So if we had that scale, we would have some more information about where these project locations were. In addition, the state of practice for watershed models and 9-element plans has evolved since the initial development of this model, as you can see with Skinny Atlas Lake, which is being developed, and the Cayuga Lake watershed that was recently finalized, and the Seneca Cayuga Lake watershed that was recently finalized. They have a much more robust watershed modeling and monitoring that makes this information more accurate and better plans in place for implementation and for evaluating outcomes using, more quality assurance project plan to ensure the quality of everything. So this would enable us, and so updating this watershed model and the 90 plan would help enable us to improve our management approach and better evaluate trends and condition over time. The Black River Adaptive Modeling Project, or BRAM, as we like to call it, will facilitate this effective Black River watershed management plan and 9-element plan implementation, leverage state and federal funding, protect drinking water sources, improve impaired water bodies such as the Mill Creek, which was proposed for developing a TMDL, which is a total maximum daily load and is a more regulatory approach to addressing water quality issues. And that it will also update the Black River Watershed Management Plan with current conditions and watershed management needs. During phase 1 of the project, which is being supported by the New York State DEC's Great Lakes Program under Ocean and Great Lakes Ecosystem Conservation Act funding from the Environmental Protection Fund, the DEC Great Lakes Program staff are managing the project in consultation with Ramble and CCE Environment and Planning and Tug Hill Commission, who is leading stakeholder engagement and other, interested stakeholders that are involved with regular coordination. And this also includes the 5 soil and water conservation districts and Oneida Herkimer County planning. So the phase 1 portion of this project is funded, and phase 2, which has not yet been funded and will be seeking funding, will take place after additional monitoring. And this is going to integrate the monitoring data needed and develop a soil and water assessment tool model for the watershed at the HUC 12 scale. And then use the updated model to evaluate the Black River 9-element plan and, evaluate trends. This will help address water body impairments and improve our management approach. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jasmine to talk more about phase 1 of the BRAM project. Jasmine, take it away.
Thanks, Emily. So the first major step of phase 1 is reaching out with the public, engaging with stakeholders in all of you today, and then going into the data collection, which you see here. What you see on this list is some of the data that we hope to collect. And we want to collect this data from existing public sources, local organizations, soil and water conservation districts, lake associations, and other great resources that you guys have. This data will be useful in both characterizing the watershed and hopefully moving you guys forward into that phase 2 with appropriate funding for management and modeling purposes. The 2016 9-element plan focused on phosphorus, nitrogen, and sediment. So we will also look into getting new updated data on all of those. So far, the project team has been researching public data available through the web. So we've created a few maps here that I'll show you of areas being monitored, and as well as potentially looking at some gaps in where we'd like to receive data from you all. So this map shows various lake monitoring sites. And what I have listed here are CSLAP sites, Hamilton County Soil and Water District lake sites, and then DEC's RIBS lake monitoring sites. So you can see here that there's definitely a lot going on up in the middle of the watershed, but we hope to find more data if it's available from all of you. So this next map displays stream and groundwater monitoring sites. This is from USGS and again, the DEC RIB stream monitoring. As Michelle had mentioned, we know that Lewis County also does a lot of this stream monitoring. So we'll be happy to collect that data, as well as any other lake association groups that would like to share that with us. And we'll explain later how you can get that to us. But in later slides, like as I mentioned, we have a folder or my email that we can use. This next map is NOAA climate stations. This is really important just to characterize, general weather trends. And there are 7 locations that measure precipitation, minimum temperature, and maximum temperature here. But it's very exciting to see that it does reach most of the watershed. So that'll be really useful for both characterizing the watershed and hopefully moving into that modeling phase. And then finally, the last map, we have state pollutant discharge elimination systems, also known as speed use permits within the watershed. These are facilities that are considered point sources and are regularly monitored for nutrient concentrations and flow. And that'll also help the model be more accurate in those nutrient concentrations. But a huge reason why we're here today is we really want to encourage everyone to share any data or information that's relevant to the watershed that you think would be helpful. This information will be crucial to help the project team understand both any new changes in the characteristics and also moving forward to understand what data might be still needed for the modeling. Some of the types of data that we're interested in are listed on here, and you can see any observations, such as areas of concern, which will also tie into our interactive session today, but also stream nutrient concentration and flow data, bank and sediment erosion, different types of agricultural practices, such as application of fertilizer, times when you do tillage, and also drainage. Lake nutrient concentration and other water quality data will be huge for us. And then also we love beautiful photos like this that Emily took. So another step that we will do in addition to this data compilation is kind of figure out what data we can use for the modeling and other data that will be used either for reference, included in the 9-element plan, or different references. So once we've collected all this data, we'll undergo this assessment, which you'll see here. We have criteria, so 6 different criteria that we'll analyze and score. And then we'll give a final scoring for each of these data sources into level A, B. You can see going down the list. All this means is that either we'll use it for modeling or we'll use it for a different way. And then just really quickly too, when we do this assessment for modeling, we have a quality assurance project plan. And this is a document that helps, provide kind of like the planning of this data collection. And then we have an environmental laboratory accreditation program. So having both a quality assurance project plan and utilizing a lab with the certification of an ELAP, these will help a data source get that level A where we can use it for modeling. And then finally, we'll do a data gap analysis. So after we do this compilation and screening, we will determine if there's any missing categories or locations within the watershed that lack data. We'll also identify anything that's necessary to complete that next step of a SWOT watershed modeling. The project team will share our findings at the annual watershed conference, which, as Michelle said, is currently scheduled for June 14th. And then here is just kind of an overview of this first phase of the project that you'll see. We broke it down into the project timeline, key outputs that the project team will provide, and then where we can get your input. So right now we're meeting for background research and we're kicking off this project. So we're having these meetings right now. And then we hope that you will share different data, pictures, and other information with us. We're also starting the data compilation where we will actually have like a matrix to organize this data and sources. Then we will do the screening, as I had mentioned. We will refine this data and identify those that are acceptable to be used in a watershed model. And then this was supposed to happen in the fall, but we hope that this spring, weather permitting, not today, obviously, we're going to report what data is acceptable, and we will meet with everybody, hopefully in person, to meet with you, identify any data gaps, and just chat about the watershed. So this data gap evaluation, as I mentioned, we'll report what's missing, if there's anything missing, into a formal report, and then we'll present that at the conference. And I think now I'll turn it over to Gabriel.
All right, thank you, Jasmine. Jen, if you could stop screen sharing and I'll share.
Yep, you should be all set. All right, so everyone who's here today should have, when they registered, filled out a Google form and answered some questions just to get yourself thinking about conditions in the watershed, areas of improvement, problem areas, and also data accessibility. So I'm just going to run through some of the responses that we got from that survey. Our first question was, what is your connection to the Black River watershed? And you can see almost everyone here is working in the watershed. And then we have some other uses: recreation, people living, working, recreating, some year-round residents and seasonal residents. And an overarching theme for these questions was that no one is in agreement on the problems in the watershed or the solutions. So you can see that in this question. In your experience, what changes to land use, water use, and/or climate have affected water quality in the Black River watershed? About a third of people weren't sure. The second most common answer, people were concerned with development. And then a lot of single or double answers of warmer temperatures, wastewater discharge, industrial expansion, increased agriculture, and acid rain recovery. What are your biggest water quality concerns in the watershed? Here you can see even more spread. The four most common answers were urban runoff and road salt, nutrients and harmful algal blooms, development, agriculture, and septics. We also had people responding, they were concerned over groundwater supplies, microplastics, invasive species, storm intensity and climate change, non-point source pollution. This person said people caring and working together to solve water quality problems in the watershed. Some people are unsure and concerned about organics. Where are your biggest water quality concerns? Watersheds or areas of non-point solution, non-point source pollution, or point sources. And similarly, no one was in agreement. Some of the more common answers were non-point source pollution, septics, people weren't sure. Some highly developed lakes and urban areas in runoff. And then some other single answers: eutrophication, wastewater treatment discharges, Black River Valley ag area, Carthage, Fort Drum, and Watertown urban areas, point source, and recreational fishing near ag or urban runoff. Also Fulton chain of lakes. How have you observed management practices in the watershed that have benefited water quality? A lot of these were related to septic system improvements. One person said Town of Webb, and another person seconded that with this, identifying their septic inspection program. They also had the combined sewer separation in the city of Watertown, and we just saw some that recently. Grants addressing non-point source pollution, stormwater retention ponds in the town of Watertown, installation of local sewerage systems, such as an old forge and inlet, potentially centralized wastewater treatment. Someone said all throughout the Black River watershed, there have been improvements and wastewater infrastructure in the towns of Watertown and Lowville, agriculture. But notably, 6 people said there have not been any management practice improvements. So what locations would benefit from additional water quality monitoring? We got lots of feedback on this all throughout the watershed. Several people said Fulton chain of lakes, Big Moose Lake, or people were unsure, or people said the entire watershed. At smaller lakes, Lower Black River Bay, Lake Leela,
downstream of municipal water treatment plants, CSOs and stormwater outfalls, Tug Hill tributaries, gauges next to mixed-use land, and the towns of Forestport, Woodgate, Talcottville, and Port Lyden. And we also got some useful feedback concerning the data that people might have to share with us and some ideas on how to collect that data. So thank you for that. So now we're going to do a small mapping activity, and we hope that everyone will participate to give us some additional feedback about the watershed. So this is a picture of the entire watershed with some main roads and Black River. And after this, we're going to do an annotation activity focusing on these 4 quadrants of the watershed. So we'd appreciate if you would use the annotation tool, and Jen is gonna paste the directions to that in the chat, but I'll do an example for you on how to use the tool. You'll click the annotation tool, which might be hidden in the top of your screen. And you can draw you can draw pictures or write, or more easily, you click the text tab. You can click format and choose format 12, and then just type a comment somewhere on the watershed where you've seen improvements, where you see problems, and you can also link that comment by using the draw tab. So you can draw lines pinpointing specific areas within the watershed. And then afterwards, we can download this snapshot and compile some of the answers that you've all given. So I'll move to the next slide. And if everyone could practice that annotate tool right now, that would be great. And just put in the chat or on mute if you have any questions.
I'll add, sometimes the annotate tool is just above where the mute button, where the sound button is. If you hover over, you'll see kind of a little icon come up. And if you click on that, you'll get a toolbox up on your screen. And then I can use the text to add. So cumulative. Just say if we had monitoring there, it would identify cumulative conditions.
Gabriel, looks like somebody drew along the Beaver River. If that person wants to unmute and let us know what you're thinking there.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
It's Ray Letterman. I was just practicing. I'm not even sure if I quite have the Beaver River in the right place, but I was just seeing if it would work. So I didn't mean to distract you. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Any feedback is welcome.
And maybe given the small group, if people wanted to unmute and talk, I'm sure Gabriel wouldn't mind jotting down those notes as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I'll move to the next quadrant, and if anyone has any comments on that, would be great. Does someone want to talk about the dam relicensing and water levels in the Beaver Lake?
This is Nichelle. I know that this is a concern for Beaver Lake residents, and A lot of waterways or dams are going through relicensing right now.
All right, thank you.
If I may, as far as the relicensing, that's probably the most important tool we have right now with that project. All 8 projects under the one license are up for relicensing. And in the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years, whatever is said and done in that licensing process will last for 2 more generations. So that's real important to those residents to capture. This is their time to make sure those flows at South Maple and all those places are where they need to be, I guess. This is their only chance to have an input. So that's super important. But thank you.
Thank you. Valid point. How about back to the water? So how about the watershed as a whole? Does any additional annotation comments are welcome? And does anyone have any comments on water quality concerns, areas of improvement, any input?
I noticed that one of the previous diagrams had where you had water quality monitoring sites. You had the Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation sites, which we depend on in the Fulton chain. And there's also about 30 years of on and off data on Second Lake in the Fulton chain, and there was no symbol down there. So we'll have to get someone updated on that data. I've been trying to get it all together in one big spreadsheet, and it's it's been a little tricky, but that was missed, I guess, in screening.
Great, thank you. If no one has anything else, I guess we'll move into the next steps.
Hey, Gabriel, just hang on a second. I wanted to follow back up with Ray. Ray, you had mentioned two opportunities there for data. One was the Fulton Chain of Lakes, which I noted here in my notes. But what was the first one you mentioned again? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I think it was what's her name? The new person, Katie Witkovitz. The Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District has been collecting data all through Hamilton County. That has included the highest lakes in the Fulton chain, 8th, 7th on down to the inlet, village of Inlet end of Fourth Lake. So we scrape up their data and use that with our data down in Second Lake from CSLAP to try to put a picture together for what's going on in the Fulton chain. That's why I mentioned Hamilton. It's their data have been very important for us.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it.
So with that, I'll go into our wrap up. If anyone has any more questions or comments, feel free to jump in the chat or unmute. So we will keep everyone up to date with more opportunities to support phase 2 as we're moving through phase 1. And again, importantly for phase 1 of the project, we're looking for data to be submitted to Ramble, and that can either be emailed or uploaded to Google. And we'll put both of those, Jasmine's email and the Google Drive folder in the chat, so you can copy and paste that. And I'm sure we'll also have a follow-up email with that information for you. And you can discuss with them data usability as needed. And also we invite you to attend the Watershed, the Black River Watershed Conference on June 14th to learn about project outcomes for phase 1 and additional water data needs. And you can also check the Tug Hill Commission website for updates. We'll link that in the chat also. And that's under the Black River Project's Black River Watershed Initiative. And we will post updates on phase 1 and phase 2 of the projects there as well. And with that, does anyone have any final questions or comments for any members of the team?
Just answering Paul's question, the Watershed Conference in person, excuse me.
So, hi, this is Alexis with Soil and Water. Would you want a spreadsheet of all the BMPs that have been installed within the watershed since 2010 from us, to include cover crop acreage, waste storage and transfer systems, any practice that has been installed within the watershed since 2010, or is there a certain time frame that you're looking for?
This is Tony. Yes, I'd like to be able to take into account any BMPs that are already being implemented in preparation for if the funding occurs for the next phase of the project for the modeling. That would be good to take into account.
Okay.
Based on model. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Alexis. And I guess I'll just emphasize too, we really encourage in this phase any data that you'd like to share with us, photos, information. We'll take anything. We greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Any last questions or comments? Otherwise, we really thank everyone for attending today, and we will be sure to keep you up to date as the project progresses. And I hope you all have a safe and snowy drive home.
Snowy is for sure.
Everybody be safe. Drive safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Michelle, to answer your question,
Thank you.
who asked it about whether it's snowing? It's certainly snowing now.
It wasn't very much when this started, and now it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mhm.